trying to say I'm tongue-tied. Tongue-tied. Whenever you are near me. I'm mummy, 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 mummy. Whenever you're around. Whenever you're around, girl.
So, the reason I've been talking so much about Kat and Lister's relationship is, well, partly just because I think it's interesting how it's been handled on the show, how it's evolved and such, as Kat himself has evolved. But another reason is because it was supposed to culminate in an episode that would have focused on the cat. It was going to be called Identity Within, and it most likely would have come between Tika Taride and Stoke Me a Clipper in Season 7. It was scripted and storyboarded, but it never made it to the filming stage. Instead, it was made into a non-canon kind of proto-episode with Chris Berry doing all of the characters' voices over animatics. So this is partly what all that was leading up to, and what I'm going to talk about in this video. We open on Starbug at night, where Lister has just been woken up by an alarm. It turns out that Kat is in pretty bad shape. Also, Crichton has some nanosensors that he's injected into Kat's nervous system. We can see them on the screen, and they look like tiny Crichton heads with a propeller in the back.
One of them approaches the screen.
Picking up toxic traces everywhere, sirs.
I just love that so much.
This stuff is more poisonous than a day-old box of chicken dippers.
Anyway, it turns out that Kat's race has a built-in incentive to mate in the form of an internal poisoning where the antidote is the body fluids of a female cat. But as sick as he is now, it's temporary and will get better in the short term. But it is kind of a warning shot.
That's a sack of poison big enough to keep Lucretia Borgia busy for years. And it's primed to burst.
So now they have to find where the surviving members of the cat race went, so they can find Kat a mate.
We could reset Starbug's tracking mandate from Find Red Dwarf to Find Pussy. If you forgive me, sir.
Such an obvious joke, but it would have been worth it for this episode to exist, if only to hear the real Crichton say that line.
Seems to be an inherent weakness in the species if procreation has to be enforced by death. Really? And who'd breed with you, except at gunpoint?
Rimmer has some amusing thoughts as to what he expects the cat race to be like.
Here we have an individual who thinks an emergency flare is something you carry in case of a sudden 70s party. If he's typical, they must have died out centuries ago. There's nothing to do but wait, sir. Come back and finish your game.
I'm mostly gonna gloss over this scene where Crichton and Lister play dominoes, but there's one aspect of it that comes into play later, that Crichton always wins.
From a cursory glance at the indentations and slight scuffing on each domino, we can easily identify and memorize which is which, and therefore accurately hypothesize which one our opponent will play next. I'm sorry, is there supposed to be some element of surprise?
Later, Lister visits Kat, who appears to be looking at slides of basically women in skimpy catgirl outfits. Lister is kind of amused, but it turns out that is basically medicine for Kat.
You can laugh, but soon I'll be stiffer than a Doc Marten boot.
And he's not very happy with Lister.
Kat, I was wondering, how come you never mentioned this little condition of yours before?
Maybe you never asked.
Lister is stung.
Meanwhile, the tracking system has picked up on something which could very well be a female cat. Unfortunately, it's headed toward Gelf space.
Oh, come on, fellas. What's the worst that can happen? We get something to dunk our toast in.
After they land, Crichton tells them that the Gelfs here are called Brefawino, similar to the Kinetawawi Gelfs from Emohawk, but bigger and basically designed to be warriors.
And possess 3 separate sets of teeth. One for hunting, one for eating prey, and one for tearing the cellophane off VHS videos.
So they enter a settlement being guarded by 2 Gelfs, who let the rest of them in, but they stop Kat.
Thanks, guys, but I shave electric. It's my cologne, isn't it? Too much fish? I'll go back and change it.
Bullshit. I don't believe for a second that Kat goes around smelling like fish. I know food-scented perfumes aren't unheard of, but that'd be like me going around in garlic-scented perfume. I do like to cook with it, and I like how it smells in food, but I wouldn't want to be smelling it all the time, or especially have people smell it on me. Anyway, the Gelf lets Kat go. Apparently it thought it recognized him as a cat, but now thinks it was mistaken.
I am a cat.
I wouldn't go shouting about it, sir. The word for cat in Brefawino is the same as the word for 4-limbed crispy bar snack.
So the dwarfers plan to stick together in this marketplace, but each ends up getting distracted by something.
Oh, my lord! A complete wash wiper and valet kit.
Is that really a catalogue of early 21st century shuttlecraft license plates?
Gelf log?
Lister nips into the saloon.
And eventually Cat gets left alone.
Stick together, huh? I've seen better teamwork in the Welsh Crochet Squad. But somewhere around here,
And finds what he's been looking for.
A dynamite she-cat in combat fatigues, currently knocking a slavering Gelf off the bars of the cage that holds her. This is Aura.
I'm nobody's pork scratching, you great orthodontic oaf.
So he makes some very awkward attempts at small talk.
nice cage. How'd you get in it?
Betrayal, treachery,
Like someone borrowed your best shoes?
like someone sold us out to the other side. The whole platoon wiped out.
Then flirting.
Go on, I want to know all about you.
Why?
Well, I thought we might go out and stuff.
Aura looks at Cat, then bursts into laughter.
But she, doesn't believe he's really a cat.
You a cat?
Yeah. Meow?
Stop it. But you have no poise, no instinct. You don't even smell like a cat.
Ouch. Back on Starbug sometime later, it turns out that the bar that Lister went to earlier was a gambling den where they gamble with mushy peas, and he won a whole bunch. Now this bit is interesting. Lister enters a dark room and...
Fellas, there's a low growl from out of the dark.
Yeah, I could do with some lunch too.
I can imagine Cat looking legitimately threatening here, even though Lister isn't buying it.
Cat prowls around Lister.
Anyway, Cat realizes how much he's changed and is frustrated about it.
I've slowly got timid, logical, almost human.
Apparently at one time he was able to leap onto a table in one jump. I would love to see that. But now he can't even leap onto a chair. But he does make it onto a stack of magazines.
There you go. High jump champion.
And now Cat is mad that Lister didn't help him find his people sooner.
Why was it never find Cat his people?
We would have got round to it.
Now they don't know me. I'm an Uncle Tomcat,
Uncle Tomcat.
and I'd hate to guilt trip you or anything, but I'm probably gonna die, and it's all your fault.
Cat grabs his bazookoid and sweeps out. Lister takes a moment to grasp all this.
But it turns out that Crichton heard all that, even though he's pretending that he didn't.
You think it's my fault, don't you? That he's become a kitty and not a cat?
Not at all, sir. It's not as if you've given him a saucer of milk and tickled his tummy every day of his life.
Right. We ran out of milk 2 or 3 weeks ago.
I love that line, though it sounds more like season 1, which doesn't make sense. But oh well, rule of funny. But yeah, Lister blames himself for all of this and wishes he knew of a way to help him.
Tense, Mission Impossible type music.
Later that night, Cat makes his way back to the Gelf marketplace alone.
Though crippled by cruel years of domestication, the Cat Commando still moves with the grace of a panther.
And this scene is amazing.
Cat bonks his head on an overhanging stall sign. It hurts.
Ow!
He hits the sign a second time.
God damn!
If they had filmed even just this scene, I would have been happy.
Cat ducks expertly under another hanging sign, smiles in satisfaction, and falls down a hole.
Probably the worst part is the Gelf helping him out of the hole, and Cat is so oblivious he doesn't even care.
Thanks, yeah.
The guard hands Cat back his bazookoid, salutes, and walks away.
Anyway, always elegantly turned out, Cat Commando cuts a dash among...
God, I would give anything to see Danny actually act out this scene. He adds a lot of fun little animations to this character that there's no way these stills could do it justice. Oh, and Cat's been wearing silk combat fatigues. I think I see more fan art in my future.
Aura is sitting moodily in her cage.
Aura just happens to have a raincoat. I love that. Cats always seem to be able to avoid getting wet no matter how bad it's raining.
She looks up. It's Cat.
Surely any cat would have known there will be a storm at 9:27.
Nice raincoat.
Standard issue.
Anyway, stand back.
Anyway, Cat tries to destroy the bars of the cage with his bazookoid, repeatedly, but it doesn't do anything.
Why can't you just sense that the cage is made of auradite? That every blast of energy just makes it stronger? Could it be because you're not a cat?
Ouch again. But she knows what to do. Come to think of it, the cat race did come from Red Dwarf, so it makes sense that they'd know their way around a bazookoid.
She throws a switch on the bazookoid. The bars go gray.
Anyway, the bars are finally destroyed, but it causes the bazookoid to explode.
Now, that castle gate is
Cat tries to lead her to safety, but instead leads her into 4 Gelf guards. Cat gets immediately knocked out, but
The guards fall on Aura, and though she levels one with a flying kick to the groin and blinds another with a sharp jab of her fingers,
Aura's kind of a badass.
stupid damn pretend cat who doesn't have the instinct of a ceramic tile.
But she does end up back in her cage again.
I hate you.
One Gelf in particular, who stands apart from the rest due to the ornate belt he's wearing, approaches the cage.
Running his tongue over his 3 sets of teeth.
This guy is obviously going to make another appearance later. Meanwhile, Lister has an idea where he'll go back to the gambling den, win a bunch of money, and just buy Aura.
They fall in love, he doesn't croak. Lister beams proudly.
And to guarantee the win, they're going to have Crichton cheat similarly to how he did when they were playing dominoes earlier.
Signals? You to Rimmer to me? A sniff means bet high, a wink means bid low.
But Crichton's ethics applications may not allow him to do something that dishonest, even if it's for a good cause. Lister convinces Crichton by showing Cat in his room trying to jump onto a stack of magazines, and it's pretty pathetic.
Come on, man. Just one more magazine. A leaflet, maybe. You gotta try. Make her love you.
And Crichton is sold.
Crichton turns decisive.
I'm in. Let's fleece the bastards.
There's another line I would love to have heard Robert Llewellyn say. Later on, they go back to the gambling den, and we get to see Crichton's point of view of the game.
A pack of cards at a table across the room, which, although stacked in a dealer's hand, now digitally unravel themselves in a fan until 2 cards are picked out by flashing outline. Next hand, says the display. Bet high. Sniff now.
He signals to Rimmer, who of course has a girly drink in his hand, and he signals to Lister,
And ladles a great wadge of mushy peas from a little pot in front of him to a great big pot in the middle of the table. The cards are dealt. Lister wins.
who gets kind of smug, and the Gelfs don't appreciate that.
This guy is really getting on my tits. General nods of agreement.
I know it's in a good cause, but I can't help feeling cheaper than a Brazilian soap opera.
Meanwhile, Lister has been drinking water that turns out to have a pretty high alcohol content.
I'd say that's because they filter it using fermented barley and industrial kerosene.
Rimmer and Crichton look at each other in alarm, then at Lister. Lister, patently pished, is flicking his mushy peas around.
And he gets even more obnoxious, and he eventually gets sloppy and bets a ton on a bad hand, and loses.
Crichton and Rimmer shake their heads in despair. Lister gets some peas in the face.
But he's too drunk and humiliated to be thinking clearly, so he bets Starbug. Rimmer wants to knock him out with a bar stool,
He can't bet if he's technically unconscious, can he?
but it turns out that Lister has a great hand anyway.
Sniff, sir. Sniff till your nostrils get friction burn.
I'm surprised there is no remark about Rimmer's flared nostrils there. The show loves to poke fun at that.
We found them in the woods, your flared nostrilness.
Lister drops the Starbug keys in the central pot and looks up to see Rimmer and Crichton sniffing and thumbs-upping like Billy-O.
I'll bet that would have made a great visual.
And as the cards go round the table, Lister is rubbing his hands, and Rimmer and Crichton are twirling arm in arm at the bar.
That too. But then the Gelf with the belt returns and sits next to Lister, and he ends up getting dealt the hand Lister was supposed to get. So he wins the mushy peas and Starbug instead.
Bloody cheated you.
What were you doing all this time, Lister? Crichton tries to reason with him.
He wasn't gambling for mere profit, but risking his all for the life of a friend. Where's your compassion? Where's your sense of charity? Ah, I see Sir gave already.
Meanwhile, Cat is already at the auction, thinking they were going to win the money, so he starts bidding.
Another Gelf bids. Cat raises 2 fingers.
This is easy. See, honey? I'm good with my fingers.
There's another line that would have made the whole damn thing worth it. Cat keeps bidding until he wins.
Ah, you dudes got the teeth. You just don't got the dough.
Only then do the rest of the dwarfers show up.
Yes. Cash flow. Small problem.
Blunt mode. Sir, no cash. You're dead, she's lunch.
But then the Gelf with the belt shows up and outbids Cat.
Everyone, including Aura, looks at Cat.
Could I arrange a small loan?
Aura slaps her forehead. Oh, I despise him. Aura is led off in chains by Zuril.
You let me down again.
Cat is just completely fed up and is going to stop relying on Lister and take this into his own hands, however dangerous it may be.
I'd rather die a cat than live as someone's pet.
Suit yourself. Give me the collar and the worming tablets any day of the week.
Knowing Rimmer, he's probably not exaggerating.
Be logical, sir. He's bigger than you. He's faster. He has more chewing gear than a White House shredder.
Ouch.
Cat pulls a sword from the scabbard of a nearby Gelf and dashes off after Zuril. Crichton and Rimmer look at each other.
Dead.
Zuril pushes Aura back into a dark corner, menacingly. Aura spits at him. I want you to know that when you've eaten me alive, I'm gonna haunt your intestines.
She really is kind of a badass.
Hey, Buckteeth, you ever use that sword? Or is it the only thing you can find to dangle down your trousers?
And there's another line. So there's a sword fight.
I'm afraid you're dead, Mr. Pretend Cat. Cat turns to her, still fighting.
Thanks for the encouragement.
He's a skilled murderer. You're an idiot.
But then Cat does something totally random.
Suddenly, Cat stops dead. Like a statue, Zuril reaches out an exploratory finger to touch his frozen opponent. And suddenly, Cat has sprung back to life again, knocking Zuril backwards with his sword.
And it works.
Now it's Cat who's on the offensive, hopping on one leg while he slices at the Gelf. Why are you doing that?
I don't know, call it instinct?
Call it bonkers, more like. But Zuril is clearly confused by Cat's erratic behavior. Finally, Cat sticks his left hand out, at the ready, for no apparent purpose. A moment or two later, Zuril trips, and his sword goes flying straight into Cat's waiting hand.
And Cat wins.
That's my cat, that is. Though not in the owner-pet possessive sense, mind you.
Lies. He's about to deliver the final blow, but
Wait.
Wait!
It spoke. Zuril touches his ornate belt.
it turns out that the Gelf was not only a cat, but the captain of Aura's platoon. Apparently the belt gave him shape-shifting abilities. Also, it seems like he and Aura were a couple.
They embrace. And that's when Cat throws his sword, spearing Zuril through the middle. He crumples and dies.
Cat just killed a guy!
Steady on. If I didn't know better, I'd say that was a gratuitous act of jealous rage.
Actually, it was something else.
He holds up a tiny, razor-sharp dagger.
And what's this then? A toothpick? You want to know who betrayed your platoon? Reckon I'm standing on him.
What can I...
Hey, shut up and stick your tongue in my mouth.
God damn it, so many great lines.
Pure, unbridled instinct, arguably superior to any meg of onboard RAM. He might be stupid, our cat, but he's not thick.
Later, they're talking to Cat on a monitor who is about to leave and go off with Aura in an escape pod.
What about the sounds, man?
Yes, Barry White's 20 bump and grind classics already loaded in your mellow deck.
And Lister asks for a moment alone to say goodbye to Cat, and it's pretty heartbreaking.
I know I didn't always treat you with the respect a proud and instinctual creature should be treated with. I'm sorry. I'll miss you very much.
But Cat kind of ruins it.
Could you keep it short? Small matter of dying if me and the lady don't get busy real soon.
Okay, Cat. Au revoir.
Yeah, and goodbye as well.
And they're off. Afterwards, Lister has a moment with Rimmer.
Have you ever lost a friend and thought, how could I let myself do that? I must change. From now on, I'll tell everyone I know how much I love them. Listen, Rimmer, me and you. There's a long pause while Lister finds out what he feels. What? Forget it. You're the exception that proves the rule.
And once again ruined. But it doesn't really matter because
Suddenly, Cat pokes his head through the doorway.
the cat came back. And not even the very next day, within minutes.
You've only been gone 20 minutes.
But yeah, that's a long-term relationship for cats, apparently.
When I dropped her off at that planetoid, she and I swore we'd never forget each other. You know, me and what's her name?
Either way, he's back to his old self,
But I got the leap of a cat.
with a reminder that his potential is off the charts. But it's still gonna go mostly untapped.
He licks the ceiling exploratively.
Huh. When was it again we did tuna bake in the pressure cooker?
And so ends Identity Within. This is so bittersweet. On one hand, at least there's a way to see Identity Within in action, as it were. It really makes you want the finished product that much more. There's just so much that the actors bring to the table. Little things like Crichton acting all shifty-eyed and nervous in the gambling den, and saying things that are hilariously out of character like pussy and let's fleece the bastards. Not to mention Lister expressing his guilt over not taking proper care of Kat. It's not worded that way, but that's sort of the implication. Not to mention all the great body language Danny gives Kat. If you've seen enough Red Dwarf, you can kind of imagine that stuff, but it's really not the same as seeing a finished episode. Also, holy crap, we actually get to see some of Kat's people other than him, and they aren't polymorphs or about to die of old age. That's huge, and they seem to be a lot different from Kat. They're kind of a military-esque proud warrior race. Aura is kind of a badass. It's too bad she was basically a damsel in distress through most of this, but she was clearly not into that role, and she did get to kick at least some ass. By the way, Doug Naylor has said that the actor he had in mind to play her is the same lady who ended up playing the first ground controller in Back in the Red. So we can at least get an idea of what she would have looked like. Oh my god, she as Aura and Danny as Kat would have made such a cute couple. One thing that's a little weird, and that I didn't pick up on until I started these videos, is that I feel like this story disregards a lot of Kat's evolution throughout the series. Or maybe it doesn't so much as it treats it like a bad thing, even though Season 6 Kat isn't really that different from the Kat people in this story. Like, in Season 6 he made use of his sense of smell and his instincts a lot, so it's almost like this should be Kat from a much earlier season, maybe 3 or so. So yeah, I guess they dumbed down Kat for this episode, which kinda sucks. That said, I do like that it kind of shines a spotlight on his relationship with Lister. Like I said, Lister kind of takes care of Kat in a way. Early on it was like a pet, and later on it was more like a little brother. And Lister's guilt over what's happening to Kat, looking back and thinking he kind of screwed up and now Kat might die because of it, that's really kind of heavy. Not to mention Lister having to say goodbye to him in the end. It would have been nice if Kat had been a little more sensitive during that scene. He did have his moments like that in Season 6, but since he only stayed gone for about 20 minutes, it doesn't really matter. But yeah, this was a very ambitious script, and it would have taken up the budget for all of Season 7. Plus, there were 9 scripts, but they could only do 8 episodes, and the choice came down to Identity Within or Duct Soup, which is a very simple and inexpensive bottle episode. So naturally, Duct Soup was the one they kept. Some fans like to consider this story canon since Kat makes a throwaway comment in Back in the Red Part 1 that implies that he's had sex with a female cat before.
6 nipples? I wonder what the female of the species is like.
Pretty easy to please in bed.
But I always felt like there was an unspoken probably implied in that sentence. Especially since in Part 3 of Back in the Red, he says this line.
Another year when I have to send a Valentine card to my hand.
And of course in Can of Worms, they straight up mention that Kat is a virgin, so my thought is that the creators stopped considering Identity Within canon as soon as they decided not to make it. So I finally talked about Identity Within. Looking back, I'm not thrilled that it seems to dumb down Kat from Season 6, but other than that, it would have been great to have an episode that really focused on the cat, and it's a shame that we didn't get it. At the time I'm making this video, we're up to Season 12 and we still haven't gotten one. Yeah, I don't really count Can of Worms, but I'll get to that eventually. Next up, I'll be talking about Season 7. See you then.
When I saw you for the first time, my knees began to quiver, and I got a funny feeling in my kidneys and my liver. Digestive system, baby. My hands, they started shaking, and my heart began.
Now, are we all sure we have our badges of merchantship? Only traders are allowed within these walls. Does this potato mean I'm a farmer or something? Correct, sir.
And what about this frying pan you've given me?
It means you're a tosser.